Hey, this is John. Welcome back to Modern Old School Developer. In this episode, we're going to work on renaming our files on the backend server. So right now we can update any of our movie properties, but they're only reflected in the database. I want those properties to be reflected in a standardized file name. So let's see how we're going to do that. Let's go back and open up VS Code, and let's open up the CRUD module. And down here in the update movie function, we're going to change the name of the file. And we'll do that right before we commit our result to the database. So let's make a new function in the utility library. So we'll say utility.rename movie file. And we'll pass it the movie. That's how it will have all the properties to rename the file. Then we'll open up the utility module. And let's go down here and we'll make that function. Define rename movie file. This is going to take a movie, which is a models.movie, and it's going to return nothing. So we'll just say returns none. Okay, so my movie file, I want it to follow this format. I want it to look like the studio inside square braces, and then we'll have the series and the series number inside curly braces. Then we'll have the name of the movie. And finally, we're going to have the list of actors alphabetically. So actor 1, actor 2, actor N. And finally, the extension. So that's what I want the file name to look like. So let's start off by doing that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set up our new file name. So we're going to say file name is going to be a blank string because we're going to need to construct this. Next, I need to grab the extension so we can add that to our new file name. So I want the extension to be os.path.split extension, and I want that to be the movie file name. So I don't need the rest of the path, so I'm just using that as underscore, but this will get me the extension. Okay, so any of these properties might be none. So I can't just start putting square brackets here, and I can't fill out the entire thing by default. So we need to see, do we have a studio? So if we have a studio, so if movie.studio is not none, then we can add that to the file name. So we'll do file name plus equals, and we're going to make this an F string. So we're going to get some brackets in there, and then we'll use our curly braces to be able to interpolate inside our F string. This is going to be movie.studio.name. So there we go. We've added our studio if we have one. So the next thing to find out is, do we have a clip? That's not right. Do we have a series? So if movie.series, not series ID, is not none, then we're going to be able to add the series. But it's going to depend on whether we had a studio or not. If we had a studio, we need to add a space. If we didn't have a studio, we don't need to add a space. So I'm not going to check for a studio in here because every one of these is going to snowball. So if I went to name, I have to check series, series number, studio, and then actor, do we have a name, series, studio. So we're just going to say, is the length of the file name greater than 0? Because if it is, we had more components and we need to add a space here. So we're just going to say, if length of file name is greater than 0, then let's add a space to our file name to separate things. All right, then we're going to add the series. So file name plus equal, and again we'll use an F string. Now I want to use curly braces to show off that series. So in an F string, to open a curly brace like this, we need to use 2 curly braces. That will get us a literal curly brace. And then we're going to extrapolate, so we need curly braces in here. And finally, we'll do movie.series.name. All right, so that's our series. Now, what about if we have a series number? So let's say if movie.series number is not none, we want to add that as well. So we'll say file name plus equals, and we know we're going to have a series. We've already checked for that, so we do need the space. and then we'll say movies dot, it's not an F string, movie dot series number, and close that out. There we go. Finally, we just need to add that closing curly brace. File name plus equals closing curly brace. All right, so there's our series. Next, we have the name of the movie. So we're going to say if movie dot name is not none, file name plus equals f string movie dot name. But again, we need to see if we need to add a space. It's the exact same criteria as above, so we'll just say if the length is greater than 0, go ahead and add a space before that. All right, there we go. So next we need to find out, do we have any actors? Because if we just check for movie.actors, it's going to return true. It's going to be an empty array if we have no actors. We need to check for the length of the actors. So if the length of the movie actors is greater than 0, then we have some actors. So let's find a way to get all the actor names. So let's say actor names is going to be a list comprehension of actor.name for actor in movie.actors. There we go. There's all of our actor names. And now we need to join those. So actors is going to be the F string, and we're going to put this inside parentheses. And now we're going to use our escape sequence, and we're going to say, I want to join this with a comma and a space, and we will join that with all of our actor names. There we go. There's our actor string. So we might have a lot of actors on this file, and that might cause our movie name to become too long. So we don't want to add the actors if it's going to make our movie name be too long. So let's just say if the length of the file name plus the length of actors is less than 250, we'll say that's enough space. We have 250 or fewer characters in our total file name, and that'll work for us. So let's say, do we need a space? So again, we're going to copy this over here, add our space, and next we're going to say file name plus equal actors. There we go. We have now added our actors. And finally, we need to add our extension. So file name plus equals extension. All right, there we go. So we now have our new file name. Now, this probably won't ever happen, but there could be the case where we don't have any actors or names or series or studios. They could all be none. So in that case, we do not want to rename the file. We only want to rename the file if we have an actual new file name that isn't just .mp4. So let's say if file name is not equal to extension, then we'll rename the file. So how do we actually rename a file? Well, that's very easy in Python. We just use os.rename, and we're going to choose the file name and the new file name. So we need the full path to those, so let's construct that. So we're going to say that our base path is going to be the config for files. So that's our directory where all of our movie files are. Actually, I think I called it movies, not files. And then we have the path current. And the path current is going to be an F string of the path base followed by the current file name. So that's going to be movie.filename. All right. And also, we need to have the path new, which is going to be path base, and then file name. All right, there we go. So now we can rename this. So we're going to OS rename path current to path new. There we go. We have renamed the file. Now, before we change the file name on our clip, we need to preserve the old file name because we'll need it later on. So let's do that up here. File name current equals movie.filename. So let's just copy this and make that over here. And then once we've renamed this, we'll say movie.filename equals filename. So there we go. All right, so I believe that should be everything we need to do to rename our file. Yeah, let's see if that works. So let's go into our terminal, make sure things are running okay. Nope, they crashed, so let's start that back up. All right, so let's go look at our files. Here are our files. So let's go edit a movie I know some things about, like Batman Begins. So if we go over to Batman Begins, we've got our name over here. The studio is Warner Brothers, series is Dark Knight Trilogy, and it's the first one in the series. So when I hit update, we don't see much happening in the front end. Might need to make something happen there. But what happened in the back end? Hey, looky there. Warner Brothers, Dark Knight Trilogy 1, Batman Begins.mp4. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. So that's how we're going to rename our file. So what else do we need to do? Well, let's make sure that actors work as well. So if I add Christian Bale, did that work? Oh, I didn't add Christian Bale. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a problem because we're only invoking this rename function when we update the movie. We're not doing it when we add or remove an actor. So we need to change that. So let's see if we can do that. First of all, we're going to go back in utility file, and I think we're going to need to extract this rename portion into its own function so we can use it more than one place. So why don't we make a function, and we'll call it generate movie file name. And it will take a movie, which is a models.movie, and it's going to return a string. So let's pull all of these things out of here. So right up to here, I believe. So let's cut all of that and put that right there, and we'll indent that. So file name, extension, movie studio, yada yada, and then finally we will return file name. Okay. However, this is going to break our check on whether it is the same as the extension. So we need to put that check over here. So let's see what we can do about that. So if file name equals extension, that's not going to be what we want. So in that case, let's say file name equals the existing file name, movie.filename. That way, we'll simply return the current file name, and we don't need to check if we've changed it. We will either get the same file name we've always had, which is fine to update, or we'll get the new file name. Either way, that's better than what we have right now. All right, so that should be that. So let's say that our current file name is movie file name, and our new file name equals generate movie file based on the movie. We no longer need to check if that's right, so we can do this right here, and we can just change file name to be file name new. Okay, so that should be the exact same behavior we're seeing right now. So all we need to do now is do something when we update the actors. So let's go over here into CRUD, and let's see here. So we have add category, we have add actor, but that's not what we want. We want to be on add movie actor and add movie category. So actually, I'm not sure we need to extract that generate movie name function, but it's fine. But if we go into add movie actor, before we do this, why don't we rename the movie? So util.rename movie file movie, and because we are committing that, it will update our file. So we'll do that here, And we'll do that for when we delete a movie actor as well. So right here, and there we go. So that should take care of that. So why don't we go back in here now? So if I go to the application, and let's go over here, and let's take away Christian Bale, and that should have done nothing. So if we go to our console, we can see it's still named the same way. And if we add Christian Bale, hey, there we go. Christian Bale is now in the Dark Knight trilogy, the first one, Batman Begins. So now we are renaming our file, and we have our spacing, and we have the things there. So if we take away the studio, that should go away. So let's make sure that that still works. So if we go to Batman Begins and say it doesn't have a studio. There wasn't one. I don't know why. There wasn't one. And you can see it is now Dark Knight Trilogy 1. So no spacing there. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So we'll put that back to Warner Brothers. And there we go. So if we scroll back over here, this is now looking like this. All right, one last thing before we go is we need to make sure this path new doesn't already exist. Because if we try to rename our movie file to a file that already exists, we're going to have a problem. Maybe it will just fail silently. But that's our best case scenario. Another option would be it simply overwrites our file and deletes one of our movies. We definitely don't want that to happen. So let's make sure that if the new path exists, we simply won't do anything. So let's say if os.path.exist, path new, we're going to raise an exception. We will raise HTTP exception, and we're going to say it is a status HTTP 409 conflict because this is conflicting with our existing movie files. And the detail is going to be a message saying new file name conflicts with existing movie file. And let's give it the name of the file. So that's going to be file name new. Make that an F string. So there we go. New file name conflicts with existing movie file, and give it the name. Okay, there we go. So this should prevent us from accidentally overriding one of our movie files. So let's see if that's actually true, if it actually works. So let's go back over here, and let's say avatar is avatar, and this is Black Panther, but I'm going to call it Avatar. Oh, there's a conflict. Well, all right, that's okay then. So let's see what actually happened. So what movies do we have? We have Avatar, which was already named Avatar lowercase because we hadn't updated that. That's okay. But it didn't let us rename Black Panther. So if we go over here to Avatar and call it Avatar 2, I don't know why, but we'll call it Avatar 2, then we'll call it Avatar again. And now we shouldn't see an exception there. And we see Avatar with a capital A. But you can see it is now preventing us from trying to overwrite our movie files, which is a very good thing to guard against. Okay, yeah, so that's the basics of what we're trying to do with the rename. So, okay, well, that's a pretty good wrapping up point for today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, help us grow, and I will see you in the next episode, where we will do more things like this. Thanks for watching. See you then.